I believe while members of Jack Smith's entourage take advantage of the facilities there, Sandra, it's been quite a day of testimony so far. And you really see Democrats doing nothing but supporting Jack Smith, congratulating him on everything that he did, and then the Republicans asking probing questions about why he did what he did and the way he did it.
You can call it a robust defense, Jack Smith making in that room, defending his decision to charge President Trump. I'm Sandra Smith. Good to kick off a new hour here with you, John, as we continue to cover the breaking news, a bit of a recess, and we'll get back in there as it gets back underway shortly. I'm
John Roberts here in Washington. We're also joined by our Fox News legal editor, Kerri Urbahn. Kerri, what do you think so far? I thought it was particularly interesting when Ben Klein of Virginia a moment ago questioned Jack Smith about his past prosecutions of Bob McDonnell, the former governor of Virginia, and John Edwards, the former Democratic candidate for president, and said you went into those prosecutions believing that you would obtain a conviction, and in neither one of those cases did you. The suggestion being that Jack Smith overreaches here when he goes for prosecutions.
Yeah, I think the Republicans have successfully made their case that Jack Smith is out of control. And maybe they have a new nickname for him too, Jack Gag Order Smith, because as it turns out, he really likes those things. So one thing that has really come out today is it wasn't that he was just subpoenaing half of Washington, D.C. If you're a Republican, of course, records related to you. And by the way, that included members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Now we know, Kevin McCarthy, the RNC, RAGA, Conservative Partnership Institute. These are prominent Republicans and organizations, but the subpoenas were issued, and I think there were 197 of them altogether, touching 430 Republican people or entities. And then along with that, when it came to the phone records for some of these members of Congress, Republican members, he also got gag orders so that the phone companies couldn't tell Kevin McCarthy and others that they were grabbing their records or submitting those. And, Smith tried to paint it like, oh, I was just trying to protect the investigation, or almost even like I was trying to protect McCarthy. I mean, that's kind of the sense that you got. And it's ridiculous. I'm pretty sure Kevin McCarthy would have liked to have known that his records
I'm sure he would have,
were being subpoenaed. And, the lack of restraint that Smith showed in this investigation is just, it's somewhat breathtaking.
Yeah, Kerri, President Trump took to Truth Social to call Jack Smith deranged. He's being decimated before Congress. It was over when they discussed his past failures and unfair prosecutions. In a very lengthy post, Jack Smith in that room, Kerri, went on to say that there were so many witnesses in this case against President Trump, including his own Republican backers. He talked about the volume of witnesses available for the prosecution's case against Trump. What did you think of that moment with Jack Smith?
I mean, of course, that's what he's going to say. And, it also was a different climate at that point in time. I think no one knew up from down what was going on. January 6th had just happened. And also, let's just remember something, just generally speaking, if you get any kind of request or inquiry, even an email from the Department of Justice, people typically get freaked out, and they're more willing to say, okay, yeah, sure, I'll help you, because you don't know what DOJ is capable of, which is why I found the fact that I think originally AT&T pushed back on the records request. I mean, Verizon caved immediately, probably because they were scared, because again, it is scary to get something from DOJ asking for records, and you don't want them to come after you for not doing it. But AT&T, I think initially at least, pushed back, and from what I had read, and that may have changed today, I think there's some new information that's come out, it sounded like Jack Smith's team disappeared and backed down after they pushed back and said, well, wait, the scope seems rather broad, given the amount of members and all of that. I think the other interesting point that was raised was that the name, and this is according to Jim Jordan and some of the folks on the committee, the names of Kevin McCarthy and others were not listed when they went to the judges. And, I'll tell you what, even if they didn't technically have to do that, if I'm a judge, a serious judge at least, I want to know that it's the Speaker of the House that you're requesting records related to, because that's a very big deal. You're going after the President of the United States, you're going after the Republican Speaker of the House. Like, at some point you think to yourself, okay, how can this not be politically motivated, given the targets and the witnesses? It all seems to lean one way.
So Jack Smith insisted some time ago that he is apolitical, that none of this prosecution was political. He would have conducted himself the same had it been a Democrat president or a Republican president. But when you take a look at how he conducted this investigation and some of the things he did, I think you have to kind of check yourself and say, well, wait a minute here.
Right. And I think that the gag orders is a great example of that. let people know. You say you want to protect the investigation, okay, but you also have to consider the long-term effect on justice by basically hiding this from the most powerful Republicans in the country. I think the gag orders during the presidential campaign, during Trump's campaign, I thought that was egregious. I mean, they were such an obvious restraint on his First Amendment protected speech as he was running for president. It was a terrible judgment call on the part of
and he was so desperate to get this into court before the election, too.
Well, that's right. That's right. Because he knew that once Trump was reelected, if he were, it was all over, right? Because you can't prosecute a immunity decision that came down, that you can't go after a president for official acts and the like. So that, plus the fact that Trump won re-election, meant the case was going away, which is why it was ultimately Smith asked to dismiss it.
Yeah, I mean, to John's point in his last question about his defense of politics not having anything to do with his work, Jack Smith, the Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan kicked off this hearing today, I should note, with a critique of Smith's conduct during these investigations into President Trump, saying it was always about politics, says Jim Jordan, and to get President Trump, they were willing to do just about anything, said Jim Jordan, Kerri.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I just keep going back to this gag order because I think if you are confident in your case and you feel like you have what you need, what it takes to get it over the finish line, you're not going to seek gag orders against the person who's running for president, re-election, a very popular person at that. I think it was, at the time, it was egregious. It's coming, now that we're reflecting on all this again, it reminds me even more so how much it was. And now when we know that he was also doing this with the phone company, so that Kevin McCarthy and others had no idea their phone records were being swept up, or toll records also with Kevin McCarthy, I just, you have to think about how things look, right? And so one, and the reason I point that, it's a very basic point, but one consideration you make at main justice headquarters in the Department of Justice is not just what the law allows or prohibits, it's, is this wise? Is this smart? Is the juice worth the squeeze? What does this mean for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road? Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should do something. And I think today's hearing is a perfect example of why you shouldn't do something, given the effects of what the effect it's had on the country, Trump, and everyone else.
I mean, getting the toll phone records of the person second in line to the presidency would seem to be a bit of a stretch, even for the most adventurous of prosecutors.
That's
right. Kerri, thanks for being with us. You stand by as the hearing continues. Appreciate it.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.